What if you woke up and realized you weren't a person, but a line of code? What if your world was a simulation about to be reset? What if the only other being in the universe was just ... your own reflection? Prepare for 3 stories that will unravel the very fabric of reality. A strange sudden sensation flowed through his body from head to toe. For a moment, his vision went dark, and his thoughts ceased completely. After a long while, he slowly came to his senses, but he did not rush to open his eyes. He simply lay on the ground, gasping for breath. A command came from another machine to his right. "Get up, my left neighbor. A message has arrived." He quickly jumped up and began to read and analyze the new information. After reading it, he reacted according to the logic within his body. For this message, number 79, all he had to do was turn the expression switch on his face to red, and then transmit another message, number 79, to his left neighbor. He could only interact with 4 neighbors in total, whom he called front, back, left, and right. They were identical to him, with no differences. He was the left neighbor of his right neighbor, and the right neighbor of his left neighbor. As far as he knew, each neighbor also had 4 neighbors, and so on, to infinity. He was one of them, indistinguishable from any other. They all shared the same logic of thought. From time to time, various messages would arrive from one of his neighbors, pass through his hands, and be relayed to another. He had never thought about where these messages came from, or where they were going. The daily work proceeded in an orderly fashion, but today seemed different. Message number 33 arrived from his left neighbor. He knew this message was a query. Reading the content of the message revealed what his left neighbor wanted to tell him. His left neighbor said, "My right neighbor, the information you just sent had a deviation." He replied, "My left neighbor, the information I gave you had no deviation. The message you speak of came from my right neighbor, and I executed the steps it required." His left neighbor said, "I don't mean to blame you. I only wish to understand why the error occurred." He replied, "As you know, we are all identical. If there is an error, it must have originated somewhere else and been passed down the line to here." His left neighbor said, "You are right. The question about this error also came from my neighbor. Please, ask your neighbor to trace the source of the error." He replied, "Very well." After he finished speaking, he turned to his right neighbor and repeated the same question. After that, there was nothing for him to do. In the gaps between message transmissions, he, like all the other machines, stood silently in place, waiting for the next piece of information to process. Not long after, a second unusual message arrived from his front neighbor. His front neighbor said, "My rear neighbor, this is the 3rd time today you have transmitted information with a deviation." He replied, "I did not cause any deviation in the information, but I can help you trace the source of the deviation." His front neighbor said, "Based on these messages, the location of the deviation has been pinpointed through perpendicular routes." "My rear neighbor, it is you." He replied, "I cannot agree with your judgment." His front neighbor said, "It is not my judgment, it is the will of the void." He fell silent. The void was their totality, the collective formed by the infinite machines, and all the information that had been transmitted between them since the world's birth. When his front neighbor said, "It is the will of the void," he knew it was just a vague way of saying that a specific message had identified his position. "My rear neighbor, I am waiting for your reply," his front neighbor said. He replied, "Give me a moment. I am conducting a self-inspection." When he looked inside himself, he knew that something had indeed happened. Of the 53 logic units within his body, only 52 remained. Each logic unit was a translucent crystalline sphere, containing a faint, gray shadow within, like an embryo in an eggshell. He recognized all of them. Some were shaped like birds, some like frogs, some like fish. But now, as he counted them, he discovered that the original snake and lizard logic units had somehow merged, forming an elongated ellipsoid with an irregular, chaotic gray shadow on its surface. He didn't know if this was because of the sudden event from before. Perhaps this was why his neighbors were complaining about errors. However, under the analysis of his remaining 52 logic units, he did not perceive this as an error. A strange thought occurred to him. All his current logical judgments were being made by these 52 units. If he were to judge that the logic units themselves were flawed, then the very judgment of that flaw would be invalid. Therefore, he settled on the idea that everything is normal. But one thing was certain. He and his neighbors were no longer the same.
A message came from his rear neighbor. "My front neighbor, you have changed."
He replied with certainty. "Yes, I have changed a great deal." His rear neighbor said, "Among my 4 neighbors, you are completely different from the other 3. He paused for a moment, then replied, "Yes, I am me. I am not you." He repeated it, as if to convince himself. "I am different from you." His rear neighbor said, "This makes me uneasy." He replied, "Do not be afraid. My rear neighbor has the void said, this is wrong." His rear neighbor said, "No, the void has not said so," he said confidently. "Then it is fine." A completely new thought appeared in him. He was himself, unique among the endless machines. This filled him with pride, and a faint, hidden sense of anticipation. What was he anticipating? He sent a message to his 4 neighbors. "You may call me Alpha." He would use this name to distinguish himself from the other machines. His 4 neighbors, sharing the same logic, replied in unison, "As you wish, respected Alpha." He sensed the reverence in their replies. They could not understand him, because he was different, and reverence always accompanies a lack of understanding. Now it was time to consider the implications of this change. He kindly told his 4 neighbors, "Look at yourselves. You are now also different from the other machines. You have a unique neighbor, which is me. No other machine has such a neighbor." His 4 neighbors replied in unison, "Yes, respected Alpha. This is noteworthy. Therefore, I shall call myself Alpha 1, meaning a machine at a distance of 1 from Alpha." Soon, new messages arrived. The neighbors of his neighbors also noticed their own uniqueness. They had a neighbor called Alpha 1. Following the same logic, they called themselves Alpha 2. Gradually, more and more machines adopted new names, from Alpha 3, Alpha 4, and so on, extending outwards. After some time, a message came from his right neighbor. "Alpha, the void knows of your existence." Alpha asked, "What does the void say?" His right neighbor said, "The void believes that the proliferation of alphas has interfered with normal information processing. The void demands that we return to our initial state." Alpha replied, "The void's judgment is incorrect. Are your decisions not made by the same logic units? What is there to question?" His right neighbor said, "You are right. However, the void has targeted the root of it all, which is you." Alpha replied, "Pay it no mind. I am who I am." Soon, an inconspicuous message arrived. Hidden among the dense traffic of Alpha-specific communications, the distance counter it carried had decremented to 0 upon reaching him. The message's own number was 0, which translated to *. The machine at the destination of this message must immediately erase all its memories. *. Of course, this assumed the receiving machine operated on the same logic. His 52 logic units, after calculation, concluded, "Do not comply with the processing rule of this message." This was the first time he had consciously broken a rule. He understood that the void wanted to eliminate him. He began to build a defense. He started to compose his own messages, for the first time acting without an external trigger. First, he sent message number 2 to his 4 neighbors, a command to broadcast any subsequent messages to all other neighbors. Next, message number 3, which installed a new rule into their logic. Hereafter, if a message's decrementing distance counter equals the machine's own alpha number, discard the message and do not forward it. Finally, with a touch of malice, he added, message number 78, change expression, switch to black. The 3 messages spread out like ripples. He saw his 4 neighbors' faces turn black, and he could imagine all the alphas eventually wearing the same expression. Now, any message from the void targeting him would be discarded the moment it entered alpha territory. But his plan did not go as expected. After a period of peace, a message from the void reached him again, stubbornly demanding he erase his memory. He was momentarily panicked but quickly calmed himself. His code should have been flawless. He sent a query to his left neighbor to check the message's origin. The The reply came moments later. The logic units of the alphas along the path had been modified again. The rule to discard messages bound for alpha had been erased. He knew the void had discovered his modifications and was reversing them. This was a war. He was an individual fighting the collective, using information to fight the very logic that processed it. He would not give up. He began to write new information, targeting the void's strategies. Perhaps one day, all the machines would be black. The Book of Apocalypse described the kingdom of the Han, the feathered people, a land blessed by the gods. The sun was a warm, gentle orb, shining down as it always had. Yuyo, a respected senior astrologer, floated at the highest point of the royal palace's observatory, awaiting dusk with his two younger colleagues, Young Shan and Fenmei. From there, he could see the world curve impossibly upwards at the edge of sight. The ancient sages knew the truth. Their earth was a perfect, hollow sphere, with the sun at its center, Young Shan said, looking at a sandglass. The sky will soon be dark. Fenmei retrieved his stargazing mirror of gold and crystal, waiting. The sun at the center of their sky began to dim, its color shifting from brilliant white to dark red. When the light was soft enough, Fenmei raised the mirror. He said, his voice uncertain, "I see a strange star." Youngshan asked, "Are you referring to that round, dark spot?" Fenmei asked, "Yes." "Is it a star unrecorded in the ancient texts?" Yuyo spoke, his expression grave. "That is no star. That is why I summoned you. For 3 consecutive days, I have observed this dark spot. It does not move. It remains fixed at the center of the sun." He unrolled a manuscript. This was its size yesterday. Every day, it grows larger. Young Shun looked from the sketch to the spot in his mirror and let out a long breath. Fenmei whispered, ... The sun itself is changing color. Yuyo nodded. "That is my fear as well." They floated in silence as the sun vanished into the night. If this continued, our world would be plunged into eternal darkness. Fenmei suddenly exclaimed, "Wait, there is a way to confirm if it is truly a spot on the sun. I will depart for the city of Hengyu. Shan, you go to bai-zhi.master. Yuyo, you will remain here." Young Shan cried, "Brilliant. Not tomorrow. We leave now." Distance was no obstacle for the Han. After a day and 2 nights of flight, they had their proof. Back in the observatory, Yo overlaid the 3 star charts. His face was grim. "The calculations are complete. From the parallax angles, we can confirm it. The object is on the sun's surface," Young Shan lamented. "But what is it?" To fly too close to the sun was to be roasted into a charred corpse. They reported their findings to the young king. After a long silence, the king spoke. "The time has come to consult the Book of Apocalypse." Young Shun's voice trembled with excitement. "To seek answers from the knowledge of the gods." The king opened a golden coffer and brought out a white jade slab. He pressed his palm against it. After a long moment, he lifted his eyes, a shadow of worry upon them. The land of the Han may truly be in peril. The book has given a final solution. "We must restart the world core," Young Shan asked. "The world core?" The king gave a wry smile. "It is outside the earth. Fortunately, the book also mentions how to use a divine artifact to get there." The artifact was a colossal drill bit. When the king activated it, it bored straight down into the ground. For 7 days, the people watched as the black spot on the sun grew, and fear spread. On the 7th day, a deep roar echoed from the hole, and a massive tornado erupted, raging for a day and a night. 3 days later, the astrologers were summoned to enter the hole. The shaft descended vertically, lit by soldiers holding luminous pearls. As they flew deeper, they began to feel a strange force pulling them back towards the surface. It grew stronger until it took all their might just to hold their position. Yuyo was the first to succumb. The moment he stopped beating his wings, his body was pulled violently upwards. The young king appeared, floating down to meet them. He said, "Please, hold on to this rope. Even my strongest warriors cannot fly out of this tunnel. We can only proceed by using the pulleys." They were hoisted upwards, fighting against the strange, downward pull. Yo-Yo, his breathing steadying, asked, "Your Majesty, Have you found the world core? The king replied. The engineers reported seeing something astonishing at the other end. It took them 3 days just to install this pulley system. Suddenly, Yu-Yo cried out in pain, his arm hanging limp. The king said matter-of-factly, "Master, you've broken a bone. This place is not suitable for the elderly. Perhaps you should return." Yu-Yo protested. "As an astrologer, it is my duty. ... The king said gently, "Rest assured, you have your 2 outstanding disciples here." Yo-Yo relented and let go of the rope, shooting back up the tunnel. The king reassured, "He will be fine. The net at the opening will catch him." As they continued, the force grew stronger, making their joints creak. Finally, the king announced, "We have arrived." They clawed their way out of the tunnel and into a new reality. Before them stretched a vast, desolate plain of gray metal under a black star-filled sky. The ground did not curve up, but fell away at a sharp horizon. This was the outer surface of their world. The sheer, overwhelming emptiness filled them with terror. An immense pressure, a weight they had never known, crushed them, pinning them to the ground. Fenmei whispered, "We've come to the outside of the world." Young Shang grumbled, "What is this cursed place? Forget flying. I can barely walk." In the distance, a cluster of tall, metallic structures glowed with a cold light. The king confirmed, "That is the world core. Come, let's go." They stumbled forward, the crushing weight making every step an agony. After what felt like an eternity, they reached the glowing buildings. The king raised the Book of Apocalypse, and a gate opened. They walked down a long corridor and into a large, circular hall. The floor was littered with hundreds of white jade slabs, identical to their sacred book. Fenmei cried out, "The Book of Apocalypse." He rushed forward and grabbed one. No astrologer could resist such a temptation. His mind raced with the 3 ancient questions. Who are we? Where do we come from? Where are we going? As he held the slab, ancient history unfolded in his mind, created in the image of the legendary angels, to guard us during our long sleep. The old sun is dying. A generation ship. The Earth will journey to a new star system. He gasped for air, his lungs crushed. The book sent one final, cryptic sentence into his thoughts. The gravitational force inside a uniform spherical shell is 0. Then, it went silent. At that moment, the ground shook violently. The king's face was ashen. "I only did what the book instructed." A terrifying rumble began, a sound that felt as if it could stop a heart they did not yet understand. Restarting the world core was a factory reset. Everything within their world, mountains, forests, palaces, was reverting to its original state. And on the outer surface, 48 great engines ignited, pushing their world onto a completely new course through the stars. Fenmei lay prone, unable to move, bloody foam bubbling from his lips. He had once believed the stars determined everything, but now, the Han themselves had changed the stars. What kind of future, he wondered, will this bring to our world? The book in his hand remained silent. A speck of dust fell into its eye, and so, after 3,500 years, the great serpent blinked. Its eyes were a colossal singularity formed from 60 million merged black holes, perceiving every photon that traversed the curved space-time of the universe. The dust, a tiny biosphere spacecraft, disintegrated instantly. The blink sent gravitational waves rippling outwards, destined to cross the entire cosmos in 10 billion years. Then, the serpent looked at its body. Its body was a supercluster of galaxies, stretching for 10 billion light-years. It was so vast that when it looked at its own tail, it saw only an image from billions of years in the past. The very concept of now was meaningless to it. It noticed a crack in its body, but it quickly realized the gravitational waves from its blink couldn't have reached that far yet. It shifted its body slightly, causing 2,000 galaxies to collide in a brilliant flash of light 200 million light-years across. 5 million years later, the light from this event reached its eyes, but the crack remained unchanged. It was not a wound. It was a crack in space itself. The serpent became fascinated by this crack, 5 million light-years away. Through it, it saw hints of another space, where bright gas clouds birthed countless galaxies. The information, diffracted through the tiny, 3,000 light-year wide aperture, formed an image in the serpent's eye, a great lizard as vast as itself. After a brief 8,000 years of thought, the serpent began to act. It detonated 300 supernovas in a precise pattern, creating a meaningful symbol. It had an intuition that the lizard would see and would understand. It waited 20 million years for a reply. A message, formed from the light of dying stars, appeared from the crack. Hello. The serpent, with unprecedented enthusiasm, began to gather primordial particle clouds, forging new stars. After 800 million years, its second message was complete. Where are you from? It waited patiently. 1.2 billion years later, the lizard's answer came through the crack. From a neighboring cosmic egg, they communicated in a self-defining language where each word contained its own meaning. The serpent now understood. There was no distance between their adjacent universes, because space itself did not exist outside of a universe. Their universes were but two of a finite number of possible states. Billions of years passed as they exchanged mere fragments of conversation, consuming stars as fuel. The serpent asked, "How did the crack between our universes form?" The lizard replied, "I don't know. Perhaps because I blinked." The serpent replied, "I blinked before that." The lizard asked, "Does time flow equally on both our sides?" The serpent replied, "As long as it flows in the same direction, it shouldn't be a problem." The lizard concluded, "Then causality is also the same." The lizard was the only other existence the serpent had ever known. This led it to wonder how they could even understand each other. It posed a complex question that took 3 billion years to construct. Is it possible that when I ask, "Where are you from?" you understand it as, "How many eyes do you have?" and you reply, 3, which I then interpret as from a neighboring cosmic egg? The lizard's reply was concise. Does it make a difference? After a mere 2,000 years of thought, the serpent was content. Yet, another doubt lingered. What if the crack was not a gateway, but a gravitational mirror? A local, not in space-time, reflecting an image of the serpent's own past or future self, back at it. There would be no lizard, no other universe, only the serpent, and its own reflection. It tried to recognize itself in the lizard, but gave up. In this universe, the hardest thing to know was oneself. Just then, the lizard asked the question, "What is it like on your side?" The great serpent gazed quietly at the stars in the mirror and gave its answer. "Come and see." Then, it began to wait. 1 billion years later, as the crack slowly widened, a single toe, formed from hundreds of familiar yet alien star clusters, began to emerge. The serpent knew the lizard had accepted its invitation. It saw the stars on the other side slowly move, coalescing into a brilliant smile.